Hello everyone, welcome to GK Today. All the videos of GK Today are absolutely free and available on GK Today's YouTube channel. And if you are looking for interactive quizzes in text and also their solutions, please download GK Today's Academy Android app. We have several free and paid courses in that app. Now this particular series is of 60 videos and in each video we are going to discuss select 15 questions and we shall also do 500 test questions after end of this series. So the first question is, what is the number of schedules in Constitution of India? Your options are option A 8, option B 10, option C 11 and option D 12. So the correct answer is option D, that is 12. So presently there are 12 schedules in the Constitution of India. Now what are schedules? See, schedules are lists in the Constitution of India that categorize and tabulate bureaucratic activities and policy of the government. And Indian Constitution had originally 8 schedules. Then later the 4 schedules was added gradually with time, and the ninth schedule was added by the First Amendment Act of 1951 to protect the laws included in it from judicial scrutiny on the grounds of violation of fundamental rights. Then the 10th schedule was added by the 52nd Amendment Act of 1985, which is also known as Anti-Defection Law. Then it was in the year 1992 that the 73rd Amendment Act came into being, according to which 11th schedule was added in the Constitution, which specifies the powers and authority and responsibilities of panchayats. And the 12th schedule, that comprises of municipalities, has 18 matters related to it, and this schedule was added by the 74th Amendment Act that came in the year 1992. Now the next question is, town planning comes under which among the following parts of the Constitution of India? See, your options are option A part 7th, option B part 9th, option C part 9th A and option D none of them. So the correct answer is option C, that is part 9th A. See, part 9th A of the Constitution deals with municipalities and urban local government. Now the next question is, which among the following are considered essential for the realization of the highest good of India's citizens? Your options are option A fundamental rights, option B fundamental duties, option C DPSP, that are directive principle of state policy, and option D the preamble of the Constitution of India. Now the correct answer for the question is option A, that is fundamental rights. The fundamental rights are called fundamental or basic because they are essential for the realization of the highest good of the citizens. Moreover, the fundamental rights are there in part 3rd of the Indian Constitution, and it range from Article 12 to Article 35. And this part, the part of the Constitution, that is the part 3rd of the Constitution that deals with fundamental right, is also described as the Magna Carta of India, as it contains a very long and comprehensive list of justiciable fundamental rights. So yeah, when it comes to justiciable, so that means that you can go to the court of law in case of their violations. So you guys must note it that fundamental rights are justiciable in nature, whereas directive principles of the state policy is non-justiciable in nature. See, further, the fundamental rights are also important and are considered essential for the realization of the highest good of India's citizens, because they are guaranteed by the Constitution, first of all, to all persons without any discrimination, and they uphold the equality and dignity of all the individuals and the larger public interest and the unity of the nation in general. Now the next question is, which part of the Indian Constitution deals with trade, commerce and intercourse within the territories of India? Now your options are part 12, option B part 13, option C part 14 and option D part 15. So the correct answer is option B, that is part 13. See, part 13, that ranges from Article 301 to Article 307, deals with the freedom of trade, commerce and intercourse, and the articles in this part provide for power of Parliament to impose restrictions on trade, commerce and intercourse, and restrictions on the legislative powers of the Union and of the states with regard to trade and commerce. Moving on with the next question. So our next question is, which of the following part of the Indian Constitution resembles the standard setting charter of the United Nations and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights of 1948? So your options are option A, part 2nd, option B, part 3rd, option C, part 4th, and option D, that is part 5th. So the correct answer is option B, that is part 3rd. See, Universal Declaration of Human Rights was on the final stage of drafting at the United Nations when India's constitution was adopted. And India is a signatory to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Thus, part 3rd of the Indian Constitution is partly inspired by the Universal Declaration of Human Rights also. Now the next question is, which of the following parts of Indian Constitution has only one article? Now your options are option A, part 17, option B, part 18, option C, part 19, and option D, part 20. So the correct answer is option D, that is part 20. Now part 20 contains only one article, that is article 368, that deals with the amendment and its procedure in the Constitution of India. The next question is, the bicameral legislature is an essential feature in which among the following types of governments? Your options are option A, parliamentary system of government, option B, in a presidential system of government, option C, in a federal system, and option D, in a unitary system. So the correct answer is option D, that is in a federal system of government. See, a bicameral legislature refers to the legislature which has two separate assemblies, chambers or houses. India has bicameral legislature at center and few states which have legislative assemblies and legislative councils, and bicameralism is considered to be an essential feature of federalism. Therefore, the correct answer is federal system of government. Now moving on with the next question. So the next question is, many key features of the constitution such as the federal structure of government, provincial autonomy, a bicameral central legislature, and the principle of separation of powers are directly taken from which among the following? So your options are option A, Nehru Report of 1928, option B, Government of India Act 1919, option C, Government of India Act 1935, and option D, India Independence Act of 1947. So the correct answer is Government of India Act 1935. See, the most important source of Constitution of India is the Government of India Act 1935, which at time of enactment had 321 sections and 10 schedules. It is source of several important features such as federal scheme, office of government, office of governor, judiciary, public service commission, emergency provisions, and administrative details. Now the next question is, the Indian Constitution is the world's longest for a sovereign nation. Which of the following did not contribute its large size? So your options are option A, that is inputs from Government of India Act 1935. Option B, geographical and historical factors. Option C, inclusion of ideals of various social reformers in Constitution. And option D, single constitution for union and states. Now the correct answer is option C, that is inclusion of ideals of various social reformers in Constitution. See, various factors contributed to the elephantine size of the Constitution, such as geographical factors, historical factors, single constitution for both center and the states, and dominance of legal luminaries in the constituent assemblies, but not the inclusion of ideals of various social reformers in Constitution. Now the next question is, which article of the Indian Constitution reflects that Constitution is neither rigid nor flexible but a synthesis of both? Now your options are option A, Article 350, option B, Article 362, option C, Article 368, option D, Article 344. Now the correct answer for the question is option C, that is Article 368. See, a constitution is considered rigid if it requires a special procedure for its amendment. On the other hand, a flexible constitution can be amended in the same manner as the ordinary laws are made. So Article 368 provides for two types of amendments. Some provisions can be amended with simple majority, while some requires special majority and also the consent of the states at times. Now the next question is, which of the following is not a correct feature of the parliamentary system of government in India? Your options are option A, presence of nominal and real executive, option B, majority party rule, option C, individual responsibility of members of executive to the legislature, and option D, dissolution of the lower house. Now the correct answer is option C, that is individual responsibility of members or of executive to the legislature. See, the constitution has established parliamentary system of government not only at the central level but also in the states, and statement C is incorrect as the constitution mentions collective responsibility of the executives to the legislature, not individual responsibility. The next question is, several features of the Constitution of India have been borrowed from different sources, right? Now, which of the following is not a correct match in this context? So, options A is given Government of India Act 1935 to Federal Scheme, then British Constitution to Concurrent List, and then US Constitution to Fundamental Rights, and Japanese Constitution to Procedure Established by Law. So the correct answer is option B, that is British Constitution to Concurrent List, because the concurrent list was adopted from the Australian Constitution, not from the British Constitution. And if we talk about British Constitution, so various features like parliamentary government, rule of law, and single citizenship, and the cabinet system, and also the writs and the parliamentary privileges are taken from the British Constitution, along with the most important bicameralism. So the next question is, the concept of fundamental duties in the Indian Constitution has been borrowed from which constitution? Your options are option A, British Constitution, option B, French Constitution, option C, Canadian Constitution, and option D, Russian Constitution. So the correct answer is option D, that is Russian Constitution. See, the Soviet concept of fundamental duties has been borrowed from Russia, that is former Soviet Union constitution, and the original constitution did not provide for the fundamental duties of the citizens, and these were added through the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act of 1976. Now the next question is, fourth schedule of the Indian Constitution deals with which of the following? So your options are option A, Panchayat Raj system, option B, scheduled tribes, option C, allocation of seats for the Council of States, and option D, anti-defection law. So the correct answer is option C, that is allocation of seats for the Council of States. See, the fourth schedule of the Constitution of India deals with the allocation of seats in the Rajya Sabha to the states and the Union Territories of India. Now moving on with the last question for today's video. So the question is, the Constitution of India is considered federal in nature and unitary in spirit. Now, which of the following is not a federal feature? Your options are option A, a three-tier governmental structure, option B, independent judiciary, option C, bicameralism, and option D, appointment of state governors by the central government. So the answer is option D, that is appointment of state governors by the central government. See, the constitution is considered federal in nature and unitary in spirit. It has features of a federation like a codified and a supreme constitution, a three-tier governmental structure comprising of the central state and even the local governments, then the division of powers, and then bicameralism and an independent judiciary. And unitary features of the constitution are such as a single constitution for both the center and the state, and then a single citizenship and an integrated judicial system with a flexible constitution and a strong central government, even the appointment of the state governors by the central government. Further, all India services like IAS and IFS and IPS and emergency provisions. Therefore, this unique combination makes it quasi-federal in form. Thank you so much. So this was all for today's video, and we hope that you like our new initiative. So please do provide your feedback in our comment section. And stay tuned for the more upcoming videos. Thank you.